I'm here with Carl Craig. This is Mosaic, and we're here with Carl Craig, the legendary Carl Craig. And we are just talking about he would be considered second generation Detroit techno pioneer. And it brings me to my first question, because we were just singing Numbers by Crawford. Is this is a tough one, but I heard some of the early things that I know that you did. There was some pretty sample-based type stuff too. You did a lot of sample-based type production, and obviously you would put the synths up in there. My favorite being "My Machines" by 6ix9ine. When did you feel like you were starting to This is a crazy question for the nerds out there. When did you feel like you're starting to master synthesizer work? Because I noticed there is a transition to where you did stuff that was there's some music that you've done that's very synthesizer based, which is my thing. I'm a very synthesizer guy, and also some sample based type stuff. When did you feel like early on in your production career, did you start getting into where you felt like you started mastering your craft?
I started with synthesizers first. So the first synthesizer that I programmed was a Prophet. I forgot what it's called. Multi-track, I think it's called. And then I learned really on a Mini Moog. So I was doing synth stuff first. But when the sampler came, it was a revelation to me. The sampler was incredible, because if you look at everything that is now, when you play on CDJs, it's a sampler. That's all it is, Everything that we're involved with is sampler, and that was the future to me. So, that was what appealed to me more, and it made it easier for me to do the work that I do as a remixer as well, is to come from the sampling side of things. But I started off as a synthesizer programmer. Yeah.
My question really was, what did you start off with? And second, because obviously when you first start out, like for myself, I don't know if this was the same thing with you, but I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing, to be honest with you. I was just doing whatever. My first record came out in 97, 98. So to my to the main question I was asking is, when did you feel like you started mastering your craft? Is after all these amazing records that people credit you for being one of the pioneers of techno, did you feel like at that time, did you have it together? Or was it later that you felt like you got it together?
I like to feel that I have still not mastered my craft, because I still have so much to learn. There's greatness to be learned from younger generations as well as older generations. I've been really fortunate to work with some really amazing guys in the beginning, and that weren't musicians, but that were great visionaries. And then later on, I started working with guys like Marcus Belgrave and Wendell Harrison that are visionaries and that are great players, And I was able to learn just as much from, Derek May, that I learned later on from Marcus Belgrave, that I always find myself as trying to be more a student than to be a master, because you can come to me and I can tell you a whole bunch of things that I know and I could direct you in the right direction, but there's always something else. And then there's young guys that are going to come up that are like rocking the world, that are doing really great stuff.
The question, the reason why I asked this is because I know a lot of upcoming producers, people that are like learning how to make music. They have a problem realizing their ideas, like putting them down. And so, technically, what I mean by mastering a craft is, when did you feel like you were really getting down your ideas, or do you still have a problem with that today, where you're still like searching for sound, or something that comes to your head, or a vision that comes to your head that you're not there yet? Do you ever have that? Because I get that. You know what I mean?
When I started doing this, it was very easy to get my ideas out. It was like I was in the Spaceship Enterprise, and I was looking for new planets and stuff. That's what it was. So now, I'm not Captain Kirk anymore. I'm like Commander Kirk, in charge of the whole fleet. So I get into the inner workings of it a bit more. So I've seen a lot. I've seen everything, but I'm refining the aspects of what the whole fleet is. So I pay maybe a little more attention to the quality of the low end in comparison, and then I get engulfed into that aspect of it. In comparison to the early days, it's like, let's just jump in and fly.
Which one is better to you then? Which one do you think makes you happier? When you spent a long time and you really took some time on the quality of one aspect or the entire track or the entire composition you're working on, or is true happiness just laying shit down and having fun with making music and not worrying about it?
No, that's the true happiness of it. Of course, the true happiness of making music, and you keep making music, is like when you first start drinking. You first start drinking and you drink all Bud. You drink a cheap beer. But as you get seasoned to it, you're like, okay, let's try the better beers. Let's get into the better quality of it. So you have these experiences early on in your career, which is important, and it's important to your development. But as you mature and you grow, then you start wanting to have the better of it. And that's the same thing with making tracks, is that when you first start making tracks, you make 100 tracks in like 10 days, but then as time goes on, then you realize that you take the best ideas from those things and you make one track that might take 10 days instead of 100 tracks in 10 days.
I gotta ask this because it's the first time I get to talk to somebody so important in dance music. In the early days of techno music, other than I've met and I've hung out with Derek, but we never really got deep about stuff or whatever. There's a question that I have to ask, and it's based on something that Jeff Mills said one time, and other people, and I feel the same way about it too because I'm an old Detroit fan. Is it important? Is futurism important to techno music? And is it gone from music? Because I feel like, to a certain extent, in my own opinion first, and then I'll let you respond, is people aren't really thinking about the future as much when they're making music. They may be thinking about business. They may be thinking about what works on the dance floor, or recreating something that they already heard back in the day. A lot of people are trying to recreate Detroit music or whatever. And is anybody really think? I think there's some experimentalists out there, but for the most part, in dance music, not in experimental music, in dance music, are people still thinking about the future like they did when you were a kid making music, and that's what you were probably doing?
Yeah, that's a very valid question. When we were making tracks, when I came in 1989 and started making tracks with Derek, it was a very important key for us to look at the future, because we were watching Blade Runner. We were, trying to talk like Mr. Spock. We were watching Star Wars. We were doing all these things, and listening to Kraftwerk and all this stuff. So Vangelis and his Blade Runner soundtrack was incredible, but there was this kind of unknown that was there that we were creating, or we were trying to create with it, where now I feel that we're really living more into what the future is. There is no possibility of what the future may become, because we have autopilot on Teslas now. We didn't have that in 1987, 89, 90, whatever. There was none of this kind of stuff. So it makes it more difficult to want to make futuristic music, because I think that the visionaries that we were following at the time, you know, the directors, the producers, whatever, they're not doing really futuristic movies. You know, they're not doing very futuristic things that are involved because it's like now it's all there. You know, it's all right in front of us.
It gets harder to envision a future beyond now because we're so in the future already.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You have to really have to depend more just specifically on your imagination in comparison to be able to taking cues from other people that are putting futuristic things out there, you know. So I think that the concept of futurism that's in electronic music now is definitely lost in comparison to what it was before. You know, because when you heard that it's more fun to compute from Kraftwerk, when you heard that arpeggiator with the crazy echo on it, it was like, I know exactly what they're going at. You know, that's like some computer futuristic thing. Yeah, it was like that's what it was. It still does. But there isn't that same. Yeah, there's guys that are doing some really interesting stuff that are doing, you know, some interesting cut up aspects that come from maybe from a direct link with Aphex Twin, what Aphex Twin was doing. When Aphex Twin was doing, when he was doing it, it was futuristic. But now guys that are following it 10, 20 years later, it's like, okay,
falling into it.
They've fallen into it. Yeah.
You guys had less of a, possibly less of a futuristic influence. You had to create the future for yourselves when you're making music. Yeah, you had cues, but you were probably influenced by movies and soundtracks and other, like maybe some German groups or some Belgian groups or Telex or whatever. I get it. Now everybody's influenced by everybody. The internet kind of like is here. People are doing throwback stuff and all that stuff.
You don't have to use your imagination. You have to use more of your imagination, but there's it's hard. It's hard.
We're getting deep, man. So I'm not gonna make you get too deep. You know, that's kind of a segue to my last question is in your immediate future, what are you working on? What do you got coming out?
I have been working on Versus, which is a electronic symphonic project that I did with orchestra. I've been working on that for years now. So we're looking at a release in the first quarter of 2017. So that's important. And at some point, there's going to be a new artist album, new Carl Craig artist album, or whatever. And then, you know.
And would it be dance music? Would the artist album even be dance music?
The last one that I did, which was part of a Ministry of Sound compilation I did, was more meditative music. And I love to do that. I thought that was incredible. I come from loving listening to elevator music. So I have fun doing that kind of stuff. And when you listen to things like I did, like 69 or some Paperclip People or some, you can hear references to that stuff, you know. Of course, Art of Noise, yeah, of course. I mean, I used to sit on the bus going from high school with a boombox, listening to the beatbox, you know, like over and over again. We used to record it from the Electrify and Mojo show, just keep playing it over and over again on the bus, going from school to home. It was incredible.
That's amazing. Well, we're done here. Carl's going on right now, and he's gonna be playing some futuristic shit for us, hopefully. And I'm sure of it. I already know. But I always push the artist to kind of like push the envelope a little bit, and not worry about, you know, kind of get lost a little bit, not just worry about blowing it up. I actually want the artist to experiment and stuff like that. So I push people to do that, and I'll be right there, man. I'll be right there dancing. Peace.
Mosaic 2016 Carl Craig. Booyah!